Hi, I'm Jennifer Heinen, also known as Jennifer Jangles, and I'm a licensed designer with Sizzix. Today we are going to make the large Quincy and Maggie bear. And here we go, and let's get started. So you need some fabrics. The great thing about the Quincy and Maggie bear is you can use tons and tons of scraps, little pieces, big pieces. It takes about a fat quarter's worth of fabric to make the completed bear, but it's a great place to dig through your fabrics. What I do when I make them is I cut out a whole bunch of bear parts and then decide what ones I want to go together. And then I end up with multiple bears at the end. But today we need fabric for the body, and the body is the largest pieces of fabric that you'll need actually. And then you'll need 8 arms and legs that go together on the bear. And as you can see, I've got all different kinds of colors. And I fold these in half and then just place them on the die. Because they're next to this one, I'll probably run the die through the machine a couple times to cut all the layers of the arms and legs. And then there are ears that we have a larger piece of fabric that we're going to put on. And all of these exact measurements, if you want to pre-cut them into nice little shapes like this before you die cut them, are on the packaging. But sometimes I just search for scraps that look like the right size and put them on the die and make it work that way. Now for the eyes and the nose and the muzzle and the tummy, they need paper-backed fusible webbing on them before you send them in. I use Heat and Bond Light. I like it because it's light, and so it kind of disappears and is not as stiff and heavy when you're finished. But you can use any kind that you want. And you press the paper backed onto the fabric and then fabric side down onto your die. So there's the tummy. This is the muzzle. So today I'm going to use my Big Shot Plus, and we need 2 cutting pads. We're going to put one on the bottom. We're going to put the die here in the middle and the other cutting pad on top, and we're going to go over here to the machine and cut it out. So we've got all these pieces, and we still have a few arms and legs and the eyes and nose to cut. 2 more arms and legs. So I'm just going to fold the fabric again, put it on the die. So the eyes are with the paper back. I'm going to cut the piece in half so it lies flat onto the die while we're cutting it. Just makes it easier. And the pupils are over here by the arms and legs, so I'm going to set those down. And the nose is here. So once again, the cutting pad's on the bottom, cutting pad goes on the top, and we're going to send it through the machine again. All right, so we've got everything cut out. We have 2 pieces for the body, a tummy, 4 sets of arms and legs, 2 ears, a muzzle, the nose, and then the 4 parts for the eyes. And we're going to just go ahead and set aside the arms and legs and the ears, and we'll sew those together in a bit. But we're going to start by adhering the appliques to the front of the bear body. And it's super easy. There's no really exact places where these go, but we start with the tummy, and we peel off the paper backing, and it lines up across the bottom of the bear. And that's kind of your base start for where all the other appliques will go. And you can kind of center it to each side, but it'll be pressed there. What I do is I align all of the appliques exactly where they will go, and then I press them instead of doing one at a time. That way you get your bear exactly how you want him to be before you make it permanent. So after the tummy is in place, the next piece that goes on is the muzzle. And once again, it just kind of goes at the top portion of the tummy applique, but you can, arrange him however you want it. You could even do him a little off center or twitched a little, but I put him right here in the middle, just above the top of the tummy. The eyes, start with the white next and peel off the paper. And what I do is I just put this little curve right underneath the muzzle. And once again, because it's got a nice curve and it fits the curve of the muzzle, you can arrange the eyes to give your bear the personality that you want. The nose goes in the middle, and we will stitch the mouth on afterwards. So you want to put your nose up a little higher so that way you've got room for the mouth to go on. And last are the pupils. You can line it up right on the edge of the muzzle, or you can tuck it in a little if you don't want them to have as much pupil. And once we have it all arranged how he needs to go, I'm going to take him over to the ironing board and follow the manufacturer's instructions on your fusible webbing and press everything in place. So now we've got everything pressed down, and what we're going to do is take this to the sewing machine and stitch down the edges of the applique. Now, these bears are scrappy, that you can make them all one color and, you know, coordinate the threads, but what I like to do is use up my scraps and even my thread bits. So sometimes I don't even match the thread. I use whatever I have on hand, and that just gives it a little more character. So as you can see, I use a blanket stitch on the two larger appliques, and then I use a straight stitch on the eyes and the nose and then the mouth. So I'm going to start by sewing the tummy on and then the muzzle. So we're going to take this over to the sewing machine. Okay, so I've got my machine ready to go, and I'm just going to stitch around the edge of the applique. As you can see, I have all the appliques stitched down on the bear. For the mouth, I free-formed a couple little U shapes to make the muzzle and the mouth. If you're uncomfortable doing it freehand on your machine, you can use a disappearing pen, ink pen, to draw in the mouth and then stitch, or you can do it by hand with embroidery floss or needle and thread, whatever, you know, way you want to do it that makes you feel comfortable. But everything is stitched together, and so now we're going to move on to the arms and the legs and the ears and get those sewn. So now we have the arms and the legs and the ears to sew together, and what we do is we place the two right sides together, and we're going to just pin to hold them in place while we take it over to the sewing machine to sew. And we will do this on all of the arms and the legs. Just place them all together, and you can just keep sewing them through the machine all at once and get them done. Once the ear is sewn, or the arms and legs, you just want to go around and clip up to the thread on the curves. And this helps just the ear turn right side out better. Once you have it clipped, you just turn it right side out. The ears on the bear, you can see they're not filled with anything. They're flat, so sometimes I give them a press with the iron just to make them nice and flat, and also kind of push out the seams so they're nice and rounded. And then you have your ears, and they'll be ready to pin to the body. And you'll continue doing this with all of the arms and legs. You'll just put them together, so right around here, and then you'll just clip in on each of the legs on the curved part. When we sew the arms and legs and ears, an important part is you will sew from here all the way down, and you will leave this short part up here open, and you won't sew across it, so that way you can turn it right sides out later to fill with fiberfill. And on the ears, you'll leave this small curved side open, and you'll just sew around this part, so that way you can turn it too. All right, we've got the ears turned right sides out, and I press them just to make them a little easier to pin. And 4 arms and legs that are filled with fiberfill, but I leave the top maybe ½ inch or so without fiberfill in them. It just makes it so much easier to sew. And what we're gonna do is just kind of figure out where we want arms and legs to go. I kind of like to mix up, since I'm using 3 blues, I'll space them out and not have them next to each other. And you can kind of play around with where you want them to be, since this is such an easy shape. This is how you can give your bears more personality. So you can have your ears up here really close together. You can move them out to the side however you want. And then the same thing with the arms and legs. So I'm going to start with the ears, and I think I want them to go right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just flip it over, and I'm going to line this raw edge right here to the raw edge on the bear's head. And I'm not going to worry about the rest of it, because it's going to be a little tricky to pin on since it's a curve. So we'll start there and put a pin in. And I'm going to do the same thing over here, and that just kind of holds the ear in place so that way it doesn't move around and he turns out with the ears where I want them to be. Then you'll slowly move the raw edge of the ear to line up with the raw edge of the curve of the bear's head. And you will kind of bunch up the ear as you do it, and that's okay because it will come out on the other side, flipped out facing the right way. It's just a little awkward while pinning. And you'll follow it down the curve of the bear's body until you get to the end, and you'll have it in place. And then you'll go back and do the same thing on this side. And then the arms and legs, you just face them in towards the body. I like to align my arms about just underneath his muzzle and pin it in place. So I've got the arms and legs and ears all pinned onto the body, and now it's time to put the back on. So we're gonna lay it over the top and we're gonna pin all the way around, but we've gotta leave an opening for turning the bear right side out when we're finished. So I like to leave from the arm down on this side because it's a nice straight little opening and it's easy to hand stitch closed when we get to that part. So I start with the bottom where it's nice and straight, and I start with the pins I already have with the legs, and I just add that extra back layer onto the body. And then when I need another pin to hold it, I just add another one in. And we'll continue doing this all the way around except for that one opening. We've got the body all pinned. We're going to start here and sew all the way around across the bottom too using a 1/4 inch seam. We're gonna leave this part open for turning later. So we've got it ready to go. Let's take it to the machine. So we've got it sewn. Now we're just going to clip just each corner off, and then up here at the part that is curved, I'm gonna just go in and clip just as we did the arms and the legs. And we're gonna go all the way around. Once we've got it clipped, we're gonna turn it right sides out and get ready to fill it with fiberfill. We're almost finished. So here is my bear. He's all turned right sides out, and we're gonna start filling him with fiberfill. And you just wanna take a little piece off, and the secret to filling with fiberfill to get your bear nice and stuffed is take little bits and go straight up to the seam and push the fiberfill right up into the seam, and that gives him a nice little curve on his head. And you can decide how much you want him to fill him. If you want him kind of floppy, you can leave some fiberfill out, or you can stuff him really full. So Quincy bear is filled and ready to be stitched up. That's the last step. So what I do is fold in these raw edges about 1/4 inch, and you can kind of use your fingers to finger press a nice little crease so it makes it easy. And if you start down here at the bottom seam, you can almost just pull it tight and it makes it close. And so you see where you're going to need to stitch. And you can go along with pins and just pin the 2 layers together, leaving those raw edges tucked down inside. So the last step for the Quincy bear is to just hand stitch with the needle and thread the opening down the side of the bear. And once you have that complete, your bear is done. If you want to turn your bear into a Maggie bear, then you just tie a bow with some ribbon and stitch it to her ear. And then if you're going to make the small Maggie and Quincy bear, it is the same process as the large. The good news is that you can use the Big Shot with this die if it's in there. So if you already got that one, it's perfect. The only difference between this bear and the large bear is I don't fill the arms and legs with fiberfill. It's just easier to leave them flat. Have fun making your bears.